On Tuesday, December 14th, Stephen Curry made his record-breaking 2,974 three-pointer, which broke the three-point record previously set by Ray Allen. But as most fans know, this record didn't seem possible for years, especially when the Warriors were under Mark Jackson. And this really begs the question, what's more important, the system or the player? Now, I'm not implying that Curry is a system player, but the coaching transition made it easier for him to score, and there are many stories of how coaching has elevated certain NBA players. Consider Ben McLemore and the Houston Rockets. For fans who don't know who Ben McLemore is, he was a lottery pick for the Sacramento Kings back in 2013 that was supposed to be the next big star. In fact, he was compared to Ray Allen, who had athleticism, which meant he was a great spot-up shooter and could move off ball. But that stardom never happened for numerous reasons: defense and ball handling. Most of you that know him probably are aware of the time Kawhi Leonard ripped the ball from him on back-to-back possessions. Even if you looked at these two possessions, it appears that this play was for McLemore to use Anthony Tolliver's pick and start a set. But because of his lack of confidence creating off the dribble when he shouldn't have been the one running that play in the first place, especially against Kawhi Leonard, this made him look bad and the Kings benched him after he got stripped the second time down. But then he got a chance in Houston and made the most of it because his role was simplified down: shoot the three ball well and play solid defense, which allowed him to play within his strengths. Now obviously defense was something he had to improve on, but focusing on shooting the ball off passes from James Harden and Russell Westbrook was well within what he had a knack for in the first place. And because his role was better suited with his strength offensively, he was able to carve out a solid role on the Rockets roster and become an important role player with them. And during the James Harden era, the Rockets received a lot of hate for their ISO-heavy playstyle and three-point shooting, but it worked for many reasons. Besides Harden, Westbrook, Chris Paul, and Eric Gordon, many players' roles are simplified down to two things: shooting the ball and playing really good defense, which helped them create very solid role players. Players like Daniel House, PJ Tucker, and Gerald Green were able to succeed within this system because they never had to do too much. And that's what good coaches do: help players understand their roles in a way that they can excel at it. Which brings up the first point related to this argument. Realistically, with players that aren't stars like a PJ Tucker or Ben McLemore, they don't have the luxury to have the ball in every possession, which means they need to figure out how to adjust to the system itself. And this could be summed up by a quote from Alex Caruso.
It's a big reason guys get stuck in the G League is that they don't understand the position they're trying out for, right? It's like going to a job interview and you're thinking you're going to be the CFO of the company and they're looking for a guy to clean the bathroom.
You'll be surprised by how many teams need these type of players. For example, Alex Caruso's role for the longest time was to provide energy and defense off the bench on a championship contending team, and this helped the Lakers win the chip in 2020. Same with JaVale McGee. He was an outcast for the longest time until the Warriors took him in and asked him to play 15 minutes with energy, defense, and catching lobs. After teams saw how McGee could become a valuable asset, he started getting some traction in free agency and has ultimately bounced to multiple championship contending teams. The point is, because most players in the league don't have the talent to carry a team, it's a coach's responsibility to provide roles that each player can handle and succeed in to create a cohesive team. And when you see teams like the Spurs, Warriors, or Rockets continue bringing in players that succeed, it's because they are told not to do too much, and many players are often good enough to handle that. I think this is where the term system players should be really used. They are meant to have one or two specialized skills, which means they can be replaceable more easily. Now, some of these types of players are harder to replace, such as a dangerous three-point shooter like Duncan Robinson, but typically they can be. Because most players in the league are role players, it may seem like the system matters more. But then that's missing the most important point of this video. So let's consider Curry's situation. Back in the Jackson days, Curry was handling the ball on most of the Warriors' possessions while playing pick and roll with the likes of David Lee and Andrew Bogut. Having Klay Thompson come off of floppy sets with Curry as the ball handler left the most dangerous player on the court as the primary passer. As teams figured out that the best way to guard the Warriors' offense was to force the ball out of Curry's hands, they continuously blitzed him in pick and rolls, and this started happening in the playoffs more often, which left Steph only taking 15 to 16 shots a game. Now this might seem like a decent number, but when someone is as good as Steph was, this was considered awful because he wasn't putting enough pressure on the defense. But despite all of this, Curry was still an all-star and helped the Warriors emerge as playoff contenders. If he continued to play under Mark Jackson today, few would argue that he would still be a regular All-Star and probably a Hall of Famer. But with Steve Kerr, his decision to make smart players like Draymond Green and Andre Iguodala playmakers allowed Curry to play off-ball and put defenses in an unfamiliar situation. For the first time, the most dangerous player was not on the ball anymore. Usually the star players like LeBron James or Kevin Durant primarily have the ball in their hands, which allows defenses to set up. But with Curry, the defense had to make a decision: find Steph Curry or focus on the ball handler. And this made defenders look silly. If you recall, J.R. Smith allowed Kevin Durant to get 2 free dunks in transition because he was worried about a Steph Curry wide open 3. Now, Curry's ascension is a credit to Kerr, but one can also say the opposite. Without Curry, there is no way Kerr's motion offense works the same, and you can use a 2020 season as evidence for this. There was no one on the Warriors that nearly had the talent to run around screens, and this made players like Draymond Green less effective since he had to focus on creating offense for others, which leads to the most important point of this video. Without a star player that fits what the coach wants to run, it's really difficult for the coach's system to work the way it wants. Take a look at the Rockets. Without James Harden or Russell Westbrook's ability to get by defenders, players like Ben McLemore will be less effective because they will either have to do more or have less quality shot opportunities. Without Steph Curry, Andre Iguodala and Draymond Green aren't as effective playmakers, which makes the system fail. The stars are what makes the system and consequently the team go. Based on talent alone, the star players can find ways to continue to dominate on the court, which is why the system needs a star more than the other way around. And that's why even though most players in the league do rely more on the system to help them succeed, the top 15 to 20 players or even more in the league help hold the team together, which is why players with such unique skill sets are what teams prioritize first. So I hope you guys got a better understanding of the relationship between a coaching system and the player or talent. If you did, please like and subscribe, and I'll see you guys next time. Peace.